For every man who thinks that women are meant to primarily look after their families and tend to children, there is a Ritu Karidhal who works 3 shifts to launch interplanetary satellites while her husband looks after the home front. Or a Durga Darshini who takes just 2 days off to get married and flies back to complete a mission. For every boss who feels maternity leave will not allow a woman to take on rigorous tasks, there is a Durga Darshini who goes directly from her office to the hospital to deliver her child. For every chauvinistic colleague who says that women cannot work 24/7 or travel at short notice, there is a Sita Somsundaram who stayed up nights as the only woman to conduct optical astronomy experiments. Or Anandani Harinath, Meenal Sampath, Maumita Datta, many others who do not go home for days in a row during launch times and clock in miles of air travel. For every old boys club that passes along inappropriate jokes or attempts to mansplain, there is an Arundhati Mishra who shuts it down.
Great.
To the ignited audience, this is Tasneem Akulawala, your MC. I begin with a gentle request to please keep your cell phones in the silent or the switched off mode. Welcome to VLF, arguably India's first and only non-fiction festival and the largest in central India. You are witnessing the 3rd season. What's new is our tie-up with Metro. As I was telling you about the competition, hashtag Read and Ride. We function on lines similar to all established literary festivals across the world, but with a difference that we have non-fiction authors in action here in Nagpur. Non-fiction in action. As per this unique tradition, we have organized successful run-up events and are finally at the crux. Our annual extravaganza, this 2-day festival, wherein you will witness discussions on non-fiction books related to business, culinary science, current affairs, corporate culture, banking, finance, cinema, sports, and history. Gear up, dear readers, to stack up your bookshelves with the latest author-signed copies. Readers of non-fiction, readers who strive for knowledge, knowledge which celebrates diversity of culture, heritage, and language in myriad ways. One such confluence of knowledge comes in action in writing. So here we are, bringing an author of non-fiction in action. Before we proceed forward, I give heartfelt thanks to our partners. Our partners who have helped us throughout this journey of VLF are Infocepts Foundations, AD Photography, Billboards, SA Digital Films, Crossword, Prabha Khaitan Foundation, Naivedyam Restaurants, Persistence, SMS Envocare, Alag Angle, and HelpLink. We now begin with the introduction of our dynamic moderator, Dr. Mrs. Sugandha Galve. An engineer and woman entrepreneur by profession, is doctorate in chemical engineering and is co-founder and director of Ancon Laboratories Private Limited, which operates over 6 states. After working for several years as a professor in a reputed institute in the city, she chose to take up the responsibilities of her own company, which has state-of-the-art facilities at Butibori Food Park with a staff strength of 200 employees. Mrs. Garve is a key person in all technical and decision-making activities of her company. She is also a strategic advisor and also manages quality management systems for Ancon, which is approved by Ministry of Environment and Forests and is ISO certified, to mention a few certificates. Dr. Garve has also received Women's Achiever Award for contribution to chemical engineering by Institution of Engineers. She has been facilitated by Honorable Mayor of Nagpur, Sanman Shri Shakticha, and also Independent Women Award by UCN. Dr. Garve has been appointed as Technical Auditor by Quality Council of India. She also conducts training programs for food and safety officers. Government of Maharashtra for implementation of requirements of Food Safety Act of India. She has presented many papers in national and international conferences at UK, France, Germany, and published papers in scientific journals. I got tired, Dr. Garve, reading out your resume, such a long one. Dear students, please settle down. I am assuming all of you are vivid readers. Very interesting session in line. Settle down, keep your cell phones on switched off, and please pay attention. Moving on to introduction of a dynamic non-fiction author in action, Minnie Vaid. Minnie Vaid is a journalist, documentary filmmaker, author, researcher, television professional, and creative producer for feature films in India, and more recently, author of 4 non-fiction books and 1 narrative fiction. A doctor to defend the Byung Sen story, which was published in 2011. I Am 2 Journeys, published in 2013. And The Art in the Year of the Elephant, published in 2016. Fateh 2022. And finally, here we are going to witness ISRO's magnificent women and their flying machines. India's mission to Mars and the Moon, which was published in 2022. Minnie Vaid has studied from Pune University, Sophia Polytechnic, Mumbai, Wolfson College, Cambridge, UK. She resides in Mumbai, Maharashtra. Minnie Vaid's areas of interest include social and political issues and rural India human rights, the environment and gender. Writing books, scripts, and directing films with a strong social message is her passion. I now request our moderator, Mrs. Sugandha Garve, to please escort Minnie Vaid to the dais. A big round of applause, please.
Good afternoon. First of all, I thank the organizers of VLF 2024 to give me the opportunity to have conversation with the passionate author Minnie Vaid, who has authored a book as ISRO's Magnificent Women and Their Flying Machines. She is passionate about the women's issues, the social issues related to women, and she herself is non-conventional woman, and she belongs to that fraternity. So I'm happy to have the dialogue with you, Minnie. And Minnie, I must thank you for bringing this book to us, as otherwise we could not have come to know about the great work that has been done by these role models. I should call them as today's role models, who played a key role in, designing this mission, then the communication, and then related to the sensors and all that. So thank you for that. First of all, I take the privilege to ask you the first question. This book, when I read, I find that it is away from the departure from the trajectory, your trajectory, because I've seen that the other books which you have written in past, they are more related to the social issues. So I would like to know whether it is so, and what is the genesis of the book?
Thank you. Very happy to be here. I'm just apologizing in advance for my voice. I have a bad throat. I might... yeah, it's okay. I might cough a bit in between. Thank you very much for being here. I'd really like to ask the organizers to see if we can get more girls students, because that is really my target audience for this particular book. And you're absolutely right, Sugandha, that the ISRO book is a departure from my earlier books, because most of my career, whether it is documentary films, or even as a journalist before, and certainly my books feature the one underlying thread in all of that is injustice, focusing on people for whom injustice has been done, and sort of shining a light on that. That's really been, the injustice has been a thread throughout my work, because very few people touch on these kind of topics. People like to really, focus on shining stories. But having said that, for the ISRO women, I also try to shine a light on topics which are otherwise not taken up by most people. And the ISRO women are shining examples of women who've been, balancing their work and their families and sending rockets to Mars. And so the entire, I thought that it was a story that needed to be told. As far as the genesis of the book is concerned, I was at a conference given by a CII, their Indian Women Network. And I only went in Bombay, that the traffic is a big issue, so it was really far from my house. But the attraction for me was that they had written that 3 of the Mangalyaan women scientists would be at that conference. They would be speaking. That's the only reason I went, and I listened to them. So Ritu Karidhal, Minal Sampath, and Maumita Datta. They were the 3 scientists. And for the space of 1 hour, when they spoke about how they worked on the Mangalyaan mission, the audience and we were spellbound. And if there hadn't been a lunch break, people they would have just let them go on and on. They were so good. So there, when they were speaking, the way in which they spoke about their work and the Mars mission was absolutely fantastic. Like, just a throwaway line, which is there in the book also. It said, so we worked on the project in the day, and then we went home and we worked with then we, sort of took care of our families, our children, then we went back and worked again, and somewhere we sent a rocket to space.
So interesting.
So the way in which they said it, so matter of fact, and, sort of no airs and graces, very, very humble, modest, unassuming, and confident. So I thought there is a larger story here, which I want to tell. And I went in the lunch break and spoke to them. And I said, I'd like to write a book, if possible, explore the possibilities of writing a book. And he said, why would you write a book on us? So, that's the level of humility that they had. And then, of course, I went on to approach the PR department, and much like Bakhtiyar said about TIFR, it took a long, long time to get the official permission from ISRO. I think 4 months, possibly the biggest challenge was that. And after that, it was fine. Once you enter the world of ISRO and the women scientists, it is, I mean, believe me, it is something that you cherish for the rest of my life, for your life, if you had gone. And that for me is actually one of the high points, because it's a world which I had never kind of seen. And, I gave up maths and physics in class 11 very, very happily, because I was really bad at it. I remember getting 18 on 15 in 50 in one test. So what these people did and the precision with which they did it was hugely, sort of inspiring and motivational for me. And so I just loved all of the interactions with the scientists were for me the best part about the ISRO, writing the ISRO book.
Great. It's a must-read book. All of you are requested to get the book and read it. All youngsters should go through the book.
Yes.
It's a very highly motivating book, particularly for the girls and their parents. Second thought which came to my mind, Millie, is when you chose the topic for the book, was there any conscious idea or the thought for the topic when you chose it and you started writing the book?
When I chose it, perhaps it was not as strong as when I met the women. But once I started the interviews, like the primary research is the interviews, then I realized that here are, sort of iconic role models. And so therefore, this is a story that young girls, ought to know, because, if they can become space scientists coming from relatively modest backgrounds and, overcoming patriarchy, overcoming parental opposition, reaching ISRO, then in that place, space is a very, very male-dominated area, I mean, as you all know, and then making it so high that you're sort of, the Mars mission, for instance, had 27% women in key roles. So making it to that place, I mean, it's an aspirational story, it's an inspirational story, and that is the main reason for me to write it. As icons and role models for a whole generation of young girls and boys also, girls who have been told that science is not for you. You know, it's only for boys. Or once you join a scientific institution, that okay, they'll get, you know, sidetracked because they'll get married. Then there'll be the mommy track. So they'll, you know, so the whole sort of range of things. So that the very clear message was that if these women can do it, you know, other people can do it, and you should aspire to reach for the stars. And like it's written here, sky is not the limit. That is absolutely true. These ISRO women scientists have proved that.
And these breaks are always a part of your career and your life too. That is what you have mentioned in the book.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very motivating for the girl students. As you have mentioned in your book, you have mentioned that the Mars mission was ought to be very calculation intensive mission with 99% accuracy that was desired. Then no space at all for the error, no chances of retakes. So these women which you have portrayed in your book, they have wonderfully done it. So what was the quality or what was the driving force behind them so that they could achieve it?
Actually, if anyone analyzes doing something in limited time, limited resources, and 99% accuracy, sounds like women power, right?
True.
Sounds like juggling your lives, balancing your family, kids, work, aspiring to reach a certain position, reaching there. To me, this was the epitome of women power. And yes, it was a very difficult task that they did. The project director also, Arunan, told me that the women were excellent in the iterations, in mathematics, in calculations, doing their work, without any fuss and feathers, and playing key roles in that. For me, the most motivating thing you can say, or how they did it, is the nerves of steel and a calm temperament. Believe me, you cannot do rocket science if you get head up. You have to have that, sort of a temperament, scientific temperament, but also nerves of steel, which was the main thing, which was ably illustrated. In fact, there's a quote by Nandini, I'll read it out in a minute. But it was demonstrated even more, I can tell you, in Chandrayaan 2, where Ritu Karidhal was the mission director, now which is a very big thing to do, to become. And there was all eyes were on her because this was the first time it was a female-centric team. Yeah. She was the mission director. The project director was also a lady called Vanita. And all eyes were on them. And those last 1 hour when the lander did not land, and so it was a partial success because the orbiter was already there, I was very keenly watching. I was supposed to be interviewed by National Geographic later on the same platform after it had landed, and sort of say, okay, this success ho gaya, ye wo. So I was also waiting, all sort of dressed up, mic, everything. And then we were watching these people, so she's giving her commands, Ritu. And then up to a point, it was, everything is going well. And then it started that there is some snag. And there was not a frown on her face. I was watching her very carefully. She went on giving the commands, and then of course the ISRO chairman Sivan came and said that there has been some error, and we will look into it. But you couldn't have told that from her face. So it is the ability to remain calm under the most adverse situations. Also, for Mangalyaan, of course, it worked out very well, and it was a huge success in very limited time. But there also, all of these women had to have advanced preparation of many, many simulations, reviews, see what can go wrong. Yeah. Then the aircraft has to be autonomous. So how is that, just keep on having trials after trials after trials. And so that on the actual day, when something has to happen, it has to enter the Mars orbit at precisely this time. If it doesn't do that, your next opportunity is after 26 months, and then it's going to cost the nation. The actual mission costs, like, on an average, I think they worked it out as ₹4 per Indian. That's how low it was. It was lesser than the cost of the science fiction film, Gravity. And so to do, we're able to do all that and in full view of the public and the Prime Minister and everybody, and just complete all your tasks is something that I find these women displayed immense, courage बोल सकते हो, temperament बोल सकते हो. There's one very telling remark that Nandini made when I was asking them to describe what happened after the D-Day and after the insertion and everything. She said, we were so engrossed in, feeling so happy that our, spacecraft has entered the Mars orbit that we forgot everything else. And contingency workbook that they had, we just threw it in the dustbin and we were just watching it carefully till they remembered that the Prime Minister is now going to come and, sort of shake hands, and there's a camera which needs to take pictures, and then everything went off clockwork. So the relief, another scientist described it as, it's like when you wear the tali for marriage, you get goosebumps,
Yeah.
and that's really, what it was. So, not just the work and the training that they've done, but the ability to perform meticulous tasks in 18 months and to deliver on time in a economic framework is something I can just
Commendable.
boast and say women do it better than men.
Yeah.
And sorry, apologies to all the men in the audience.
Your story is really phenomenal, which explains that these women which have worked as ISRO women scientists, they bear the gender tag very lightly. They do not, they are not aggressive. If someone says that you are a woman and all that, so they are not aggressive about it. They let their work speak for them.
Yeah.
So again, my next question, how can they do this? What is your perspective on this?
Yes, they did wear the gender tag very lightly. Nobody made a big song and dance that, we should be given preference or this or that and the other. They were, if you work well, then you get the projects, the promotions, the stature that you deserve. In fact, they were very angry. Don't call us scientists. Don't call us women scientists. Call us scientists. Under the garb of, whatever the lab coats they wear and all. So we are scientists. So we are waiting for the day when we will not be called women scientists and don't have to go to women's conferences and get women's awards. Because the minute you do that, you're segregating and you're treating us as second-class citizens. So they actually said that our work speaks for itself. And in ISRO, even though this statement is absolutely correct, and at the time that I met them, yes, in the Mars mission, there was a very good representation of women, but overall, the statistics don't paint such a favorable picture because you have roughly 18% now. It was 16 when I went. 18% women in women scientists and women in the organization. There's been no center director. In my lifetime, I don't think there will be a chairman in the lifetime of these girls. Yes, I very much hope that you will have a woman chairman as of ISRO. And the reason for that, when I asked them in question that if you're saying that work is all that matters, the reason for the disparity in the numbers is that initially, say the early 80s or so, much less women joined the organization. So since you had, your initial pool was much less, so those women, ISRO is a hierarchical organization. You cannot jump over people to get promotion. You have to put in the years and then only you can do. So therefore, those women retired as deputy directors or, not really director of a center. But now, with the advent of many more women joining, they themselves said that we will think that there will be an ISRO chairman, and so that will, more representation will happen. But yeah, this is the skew, and it's not only limited to India. Across the world, the disparity, gender disparity in terms of numbers, also in terms of high positions taken by women is less. But ISRO is changing that story. ISRO is changing that story. Even Chandrayaan-3, you have Kalavasti was the associate project director, and she was one of the people who came to the podium and spoke about the mission just after it was successful, which is a very rare thing, I may tell you.
So let's be hopeful that in certain few years we will have a chairman
Absolutely.
woman for ISRO.
आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर.
Because when we think, even in we think India in the global scenario, the women who are holding in high positions is about 36%, as compared to global scenario, it's only 33%. So we should clap
Yes.
clap for the women of India
Absolutely.
for
We should.
moving ahead.
We
And
should.
I think in future, as you said rightly, we will be having the all these big positions will be occupied by women. My next question to you is, we as the readers, if we are not from space or if we are not from science, what would be interested in reading your book, and what your book would, give us the attraction for reading?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I don't have a science background, so this book is not a science book. I'm just telling you right up front. It is written in a simple way so that, like Bakhtiar also said in
Yeah.
the physics chapter that he wrote, it is actually the human side of it. They're the stories of the women scientists and how they got where they did. So those are actually, that's the main takeaway from the book, is that what were their lives before they joined ISRO, how did they get to ISRO, and what happened to them once they were at ISRO in the larger, in the projects that they did. So that for me is, of course, the message for the younger generation is always there, that, don't follow your dream, don't give up, even if there are failures, stick it. But the human stories is really what attracted me, and that is what is there in the book. For instance, Ritu Karidhal, I'm jumping forward to some of the human stories. Ritu Karidhal, who was the mission director for Chandrayaan 2, as a child, she used to follow the moon. It's one of the stories she told me, that as an 9-year-old, I used to think, मैं जहाँ जहाँ जाती हूँ, moon मेरे पीछे पीछे आ रहा है, the moon is following me. I'm going in a cycle rickshaw and the moon is following me. She studied in Lucknow. And from that, a childhood story about the moon to actually being a mission director for Chandrayaan 2 is an amazing story. But it wasn't easy. Her father took 1 week to decide to give her permission to join ISRO after getting a job, because Lucknow to Bangalore was like 2,000 kilometers. So her mother had to convince. So all of these women, they had to overcome the initial resistance, you can say, from their parents. Again, because of gender stereotyping from childhood, where you are told maths is not for girls, science is not for girls. You can, what will happen after you finish your 12th standard and or graduation, post-graduation, then you'll get married, then you'll have children. How will you do justice? So all of these factors very much are part of the lives of these scientists also. Another example, Valar Mathi, who also retired as a deputy director, she also wanted to pursue higher studies, and told her father that I want to go to Chennai to do my MSc, MTech. And the parents had decided, you've done your BTech, now we'll get you married, we'll find you a boy nearby, and then we are here to babysit your children. So they planned out her whole life. And she said, no, I want to go and study, and I want to do space science. So again, she by dint of, sort of going on arguing, she went there. And then 15, 20 years later, the press came to her father's house in the village wanting to interview him, because she was the mission director for RISAT-1. So all of these women had stories of struggle. They all came from, some of them came from really humble homes, from villages, and yet managed to, sort of lead missions, which I think was a success story par excellence.
Great. You must be having some perceptions, some assumptions about the scientists and the women scientists in particular. So after interviewing, did it change, or can you share some such assumption which has harbored you and which has changed to a great extent?
Another very good question. I had the assumption that, first of all, I had a very healthy respect for scientists, and anybody who did maths and science beyond class 11 for me was like, very good, excellent, because I was so bad at it. So there was that awe was there. Uske upar, these are scientists who have sent a rocket to Mars. They can't be, I mean, literally, it is rocket science what they did. So I was a little bit in awe. And I thought that, they will be, that picture you have of Einstein with hair like that and very nerdy, and they'll only be talking about their work. They won't have any other interest. This was a very, very small and narrow idea that I had about the scientists, and they just blew my mind, brains, whatever you can call it, when I met them, because they were regular ladies with families, more very conservatively dressed also, families, children, balancing, talking about, sort of homework and how they managed and all of that, and doing jugaad on a daily basis while sending a rocket to Mars. So all of those perceptions were, thrown out of the window. The other thing which I found new and different was the underlying, not even underlying, they said it, patriotism that they all had. You find it in the army also. For my other book, Fateh, is again an army thing. But for them, almost all of them said that, ISRO is doing great work for the nation. We feel very proud, and therefore even our families and all support us because they know that we are working for the nation. That was a very different thing, as far as I have never had people, talk like that before. But yeah, otherwise they were regular women juggling roles and, having support systems. The only thing that I found a little hard to digest, because you see, in media, it's only women. In my women bosses, lots and lots of women and women bosses. So I think in my 30 plus years in mainstream media, I've never faced discrimination. So that thought doesn't come in your head because you've had women bosses and you see so many, women journalists, documentary filmmakers, everything. But for these women, it was there. Sometimes it was not what they said. But in all of the interviews, they've said we're treated the same, we get the same work, promotions, equal thing. But it's there in the underlying statements that they made to me. Like, I'm very grateful to my in-laws for allowing me to stay late. The word allow, just shows that, okay, this is something different. I mean, it's not the norm, which it shouldn't be. If you're sending a rocket to Mars, I don't think you need permission from your in-laws. You can stay late. There's Minal Sampath, who stayed in a clean room for almost 18 months, never seeing sunlight, and she had a 4-year-old son. And she also said, everybody had stories that, my child fell ill and I wasn't there to look after him or her, and the guilt that mothers feel for that. But look at what you've achieved. So this kind of thing was there. Nandini Harinath was teased that, okay, every time there's a mission, you call your ground support. So her ground support meant her in-laws who lived in Hyderabad. So they would come to Bangalore and help out. All of them had stories about in-laws helping out, husbands being nice. Ritu's husband, in fact, in the most classic statement ever, said, when I go back to my hometown or to her hometown, I'm known as Ritu's husband. So I just wanted to give him a hug for that, because how confident he must be and secure to be able to make a statement like that. But otherwise, so it's an unconscious, usage of the words like allow or grateful for this. And so I'm waiting for the day when somebody will ask a man who has achieved some big thing, how much support did you get from your family? I hope that will happen.
I remember one statement from your book, which the scientist mentions that I run a parallel factory at my home.
Yes, yes.
That's a great statement. Yeah.
Yeah. That is TK Anuradha, I think.
Yeah, so she has a wonderful support
And even
system
her
so that I am
example.
as fresh as men when they are back home.
Exactly. In fact, yeah, that's what she was saying, that why should a woman scientist get up at 5 o'clock, cook lunch, pack her children's dabba, oversee the homework, and by the time you reach, or homework assignment, you don't get homework in the morning. By the time you reach office at 9, you're tired. And the man is just coming fresh because the wife has done all these things. So she said, I employ a factory at home. So this is what I tell my young colleagues and all also. So there's a good system of mentorship in ISRO. I tell them that ask for help, reach out, Grandparents are very good for taking care of their children. Give them something to do, and your work will be taken care of. And so she said, I employ a factory
Yeah.
at home so
Yeah.
that the work is taken care of.
Yeah. So that's great. Uh, these great women, which have been depicted by you, they are able to break the proverbial glass ceiling by way of their work. What is your take on this?
I actually answered that earlier. How they did it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think they did anything.
Rather, means I would like to include here, in addition to that, previously, that they
What changes
they,
are needed?
though they worked on equity rather than equality to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
How could they do this?
That
Because
I
they asked for equity. They worked on equity. They did
Yeah.
not ask for equality.
Yeah. I think Nandini or Ritu has answered that very well, and I just marked it. It's a very good.
Because generally it happens that women ask for equality, equal rights, and all that. They did not do that. They worked on equity.
Absolutely. They did. If you say your work speaks for itself, then you're not asking for some favor. You're doing it based on your work. So it's a very good quote, which really answers the. God has created everyone equal, but due to pigeonholing, your work is this and only this. They are not able to break out of their assigned gender roles. But if you work without the fear or assumption that others will stop you, or that you won't be able to manage so much, if you break the internal glass ceiling first, then those roles will change. The rules can change. You need to first show how high you can climb. Someone else not allowing you to go ahead comes later. So, which I thought was a really good statement to make about the gender question.
Great. Can you please share few fun anecdotes when you started interviewing these women and their families?
Yeah, there are many fun anecdotes. Most are to do with the children. So she's trying to. Most
Yeah,
are to
we'll
do
close.
with their families and children, and there is interesting stories like Nandini shared that at the very crucial Mars insertion maneuver, they had been working all day, all night, and then the chairman that time, chairman Kiran Kumar, he decided to call for a meeting at 3:30 in the morning. I said we were all tired, but if the chairman is there, then you better be there. So we were all there, and then she remembered that her daughter, who was I think in 7th standard at that time, had a PTA meeting. So she called her up and said, "You please tell the teacher to give me time in the afternoon. I'll come in the afternoon and not in the morning." And the child went to the children of such modest parents are also modest. She didn't know what her mother was actually doing in the past. She never boasted about it, nothing. She went to the teacher and said, "My mother can't come for the 9 o'clock meeting because she's working on the Mars mission." And the teacher was very taken aback. "No, please don't disturb her. Let her work. Let her work." So there are many stories of this kind. Ritu's children, for instance, very small. The younger girl was, I think, 5 years old even, and said, "Yeah, we know not to disturb Mama when she was working. We never disturbed her. We studied on our own." So, a lot of juggling, a lot of sacrifices made by the family, that's for sure.
And then working early along with the child who is studying for 10th and 12th, making a cup of coffee of herself and the child,
Yes.
so that she can study well.
Yeah, she had 12th board. Nandini's elder daughter, who is now a doctor, by the way, in the US. I keep track of these people, and then every time some good thing happens with ISRO, then I just message them, and they send me pictures. For Aditya, they had done that. It's really nice. So her daughter had 12th standard board exams the same year of the Mars mission. And so she said we would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and have coffee together. So it kind of forced me to study also, and for my mother also. So we had mother-daughter bonding time for 10 minutes over coffee every day. So I say there were plenty of say good anecdotes.
So I move on to the last question, as she has already told me that the time is running
I
short.
had so many things to say.
So, should we continue? Yeah. So, a typical urban educated girl has more opportunities nowadays.
Yes.
But at the same time, she has more challenges on the personal as well as the professional level. What will be your advice to them?
My advice, targeted at all young girls over here, boys also, but the biases are not there for the boys, so the biases are for the girls, especially for science. Don't let anybody limit you. Don't let anybody define you. Don't let anybody tell you you can do this, but you can't do that, whether it is your parents also. These, if you ever need examples, these women are examples, and now the atmosphere is a little different. There's a lot more attention on ISRO projects, and it was much less in 2016 when I was meeting them. Don't let anyone hold you down. Follow your dreams. Sky is not the limit. And there is nothing that you cannot achieve. In fact, there's a very good quote by Vera Rubin, she's an astronomer. There is no problem in science that can be solved by a man that cannot also be solved by a woman. So just follow your instinct, be passionate, do the thing that you want to do. I mean, just as a small personal example, I had got good marks, barring that one test in maths and science. My parents at that time, ancient time, enrolled me for medicine. It was that easy to get anything. And I came back from a summer holiday to find, to my shock, that we enrolled you in the college, your marks were good, you qualified. I said, but I don't want to become a doctor. I want to do journalism. So I went there, took back the thing and did journalism. And I don't want to boast, but I had a wonderful career and I am still having it and enjoying it because I've followed what I was passionate about. So that really is what I would ask you to do. Of course, there will be challenges and hurdles. They're there in everybody's lives. But wouldn't you prefer challenges and hurdles in a life that you have chosen and which has not been chosen for you either by your parents or husband or XYZ person or society or image of what a woman should be? Don't follow that. Follow your dream.
That's why, Minnie. That's why, Minnie, I described you in the beginning itself as non-conventional woman.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would have been a miserable doctor, possibly being nasty to my patients or charging them more money because I was not happy. I can think of many people like that. My own doctors.
If woman finds challenges at her workplace, does mentorship is required and how can it be given?
Mentorship is always good in any field, I feel. Even in this, because those, your mentors, are the people who have walked the path that you want to walk. And they have actually, to some extent, removed some of the hurdles from that path so that you can walk smoothly. And they can tell you how to do it. So the other thing that the book gives in detail is a laundry list of the systemic changes that need to be implemented so that there is gender sensitization. That list is common to women across all fields. Doesn't have to be space science. For space science, it's a little bit more because it is more intensive work. If you're working on a project, you can't kind of leave it and go. But it is a systemic. So safe places, childcare, equal representation in committees, equal representation in conferences, not having only the old boys network. You know, chalo, we sort of go outstation. Go outstation, why not? Why should you not go? So this kind of, there's a whole list which is given. Then the government also has plans like break the break. So it is your right to become a mother. It is your right to have children. It is not something that should bring your career down. So there are schemes of like break the break and Disha and others to join back. But the fear, what will happen to my promotion? What will happen to this? That is what holds people back. But now the situation is much, much better than it was earlier.
So as a piece of advice in this patriarchal society, can you just read a para from your book?
Yes.
Very interesting para.
Yeah. Even Nandini had said something nice, but we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Read the last. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
For every man who thinks that women are meant to primarily look after their families and tend to children, there is a Ritu Karidhal who works 3 shifts to launch interplanetary satellites while her husband looks after the home front. Or a Durga Darshini who takes just 2 days off to get married and flies back to complete a mission. For every boss who feels maternity leave will not allow a woman to take on rigorous tasks, there is a Durga Darshini who goes directly from her office to the hospital to deliver her child. For every chauvinistic colleague who says that women cannot work 24/7 or travel at short notice, there is a Sita Somsundaram who stayed up nights as the only woman to conduct optical astronomy experiments. Or Anandani Harinath, Meenal Sampath, Maumita Datta, many others who do not go home for days in a row during launch times and clock in miles of air travel. For every old boys club that passes along inappropriate jokes or attempts to mansplain, there is an Arundhati Mishra who shuts it down.
Great. I think it's a beautiful answer to the patriarchal society. The forum is now open for discussion. Any questions, please?
Hello. Very inspirational and lovely talk, ma'am. I just want
Actually,
to
I had a
ask-
lot more to say, but
Yes,
the time.
we can see that from the way you were talking.
Yeah.
And we also want to hear, but then time
Yeah,
is the constraint.
no problem.
A small question. How was the take of these women scientists, if I may say that, of their juniors, men juniors and seniors also? Men bosses and men juniors.
Very nice question. Very nice
How was
question.
their take?
There was one person, he's quoted in the book as a director, who was frank enough and honest enough to say that women scientists in ISRO form the backbone, but they are not acknowledged. There's also the project director of Mangalyaan, S. Arunan, who also acknowledged that women are specially good in calculations, mathematics, iterations, and all of that. But other than that, see, my focus was the women, so I didn't really talk to the men that much. But yes, there is a bias. There will. Men, junior, senior.
Junior or senior male colleagues, she means to.
Yeah. And the senior. See, the seniors is easy because that would just be, like almost like a mentor or guide kind of a thing. Juniors, I really didn't talk to anybody. See, the thing in ISRO is you can only talk to the people they want you to talk to. They give you a list. If I had wanted to talk to other people on the list, it would not happen. That's the other thing. I mean, officially it would not happen. Unofficially, I can tell you that yes. I mean, they're proud of the women. Some of them are jealous because that was a response I got for the Mangalyaan mission, saying, how come they're getting all this thing? We also worked. So yeah, but there are decades and decades of patriarchy which has happened, and the playing field is not level. So as the director also says in the book, you can't have a man footballer in this. He's giving an example. Play football with a 1 kilo boot and a woman play football with a 5 kilo boot. So we've removed the 5 kilo boot and we have made it equal. That is what we have done. So some comments are there, but it's a brave person who makes that. The rest, on record, they won't say that they are jealous. But possibly they were.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
afternoon.
I would also like to know that if these ladies have mentioned about the pressure they had from critics, like if they are conducting a mission. So because these are ladies, so the fear of failing. So because they were ladies, so the mission could not be successful or will not be. Did they face such challenges?
I'm sure they faced it from the public. But again, people in ISRO, unlikely to say that. Because if you just go by common sense, for Chandrayaan 2, the women, it was an all-women team that was, going to, and that before you don't know that it's not going to be, it's partially successful. But there were no interviews. They were not brought in front of the camera. There were absolutely no interviews highlighting this. I would have highlighted it on the front page. All-woman team, Chandrayaan 2. But no, they didn't get it. Why? Obviously, because there is a bias. There's another small story which will indicate the women's unconscious bias. Again, on record, is there in the book. One of the scientists, Vallarmati, she's retired now. She said, my boss told me, Vallarmati, I never treated you as a woman. So she said, yes, sir, but I never behaved like a woman. You asked me to go to Bangalore at 6 o'clock today, I went. So in her own mind, there's a way that women behave, there's a way that men expect women to behave. and they didn't want to conform to that. So these are the unconscious biases that came up.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
It was a
afternoon.
nice conversation to listen to you. Actually, ISRO is a very prestigious institution, and you were talking about this works in ISRO and all. Usually, it's a project-wise works, right? And the computers will be doing the work.
Can you just
and
hold it a little bit higher? I can't hear.
the computers will be doing the work. They won't recognize is it a woman or men like that. There won't be any recognition because computers are doing the work. Then, and it's a prestigious institution. How do you differentiate that men's work and women's work in the ISRO, and how any differentiation is going on, any biasness is going on like that?
No, I didn't get the latter part. You're saying, was there any differentiation between
Yeah,
men's
the
work and
men
women's work?
because
No.
computers are mostly working over there in the ISRO. Computers do the work for the people. They won't differentiate men and women.
No difference.
Right?
No difference.
So work is done like that. So how do you identify the biasness of a woman there in the organization?
No, as I said, the biases are unconscious. As far as the work is concerned, there is no bias. In terms of the work and the project and the delivery and the outcome, there is no bias. Everybody works the same. See, the other thing is, none of these projects are done in solo. For Mangalyaan, there's a team of 500 people worked on it. It is certainly not one Akshay Kumar and 5 women. Yeah, that's not the Mars mission. It is a 500 member team which worked for 18 months in a limited budget to send that rocket in the Mars orbit. So work-wise, there is no, see, you're part of a team. There is a failure analysis committee that they have to analyze failures. But again, no person is singled out for that. As a team, you share the credit. As a team, you share the blame. That's what they tell you on record, at least. I'm going by that.
Any other question?
Yeah. Hi. Is it on? Hello. Yeah. Hi. I'm also from the same background actually, so I feel really personally connected here. I have a question. Like, you have taken one story, unsung story, and put it out to the people.
Yes.
So NASA is very vocal about this. They have a good space media. What are the views on space media for ISRO and other private companies in India? What are your views and how we can expand it?
I think it's something that needs to be done here also, and it is a lot better, believe me, than it was when I started the book, 2016. At that time, or before that time also, your coverage of ISRO projects was 2 paras in page 16 of the Times of India, nothing on TV, as opposed to Aditya or Chandrayaan 3, where full, everybody is waiting, bated breath. Of course, that creates pressure also, which ISRO so far did not face. That, you have the world's eyes on you. They used to quietly do their work conservatively. They had success, huge success rate, also failures for the initial PSLV and all. But it was low-key. It's with the Mars mission that they also opened up. So they started a Facebook page, they started a Twitter page, they allowed science students to look at the iterations and see whether they are, correct or not. And then now there's a viewing gallery for the launches. None of this was there when I was doing the book. We went to some house 8 kilometers away on the terrace, not house, sorry, it was the mission control, and saw a rocket launch from there. But now there is much more awareness, there is much more structured visits for school children to go. You take part in science quizzes, you go to the museum which is there in Bangalore. You must go for the launch. I would advise all students, girls and boys, to see a space launch in Sriharikota. It is the most wonderful sight ever. So all these things have happened now in the last 3-4 years. And there's also, I think, going to be a dedicated channel, TV channel on this.
That was the last question. Thank you, dear audience, for your participation. And the author, Minnie Vaid, will be available in the lounge for further interaction and signing of books. I now request our VLF chair, none other than Mr. Jitendra Nayak, to present a token of appreciation to the author, Minnie Vaid. The token has been specially customized for the author, and you can avail a discount. It was absolutely liberating to just hear the author here. So once more, a huge round of applause. And I request Mr. Jitendra Nayak to please present a token of appreciation, that is sweets, to our moderator, Mrs. Garve, for her fantastic contribution to VLF. Keep reading, keep buying. You can avail a discount of ₹75 on books on books of MRP 500 or less, and 100 for books with MRP 500 or more. So please grab your copies and get them author signed. Today is the day. Thank you, young readers. Wishing you a very fantastic 2 days at VLF.